Welcome to another episode of Dorks. I'm Derek, and I have two guests here. We are here to talk about how to get your video game collection help pay for itself. So give you some tips on buying games, what to look for, what to pick up, maybe what you should sell, and we're also going to throw in some tips of things to check out and watch. So I am joined by James, RetroPixel.
Good day.
And Eric, MightyQDawg.
Hello.
And I'm, as I said, Derek of Two Dorks. And let's get this started off with our first section, which is your last deal, the last thing you picked up. We start off with Eric.
Yeah. The last thing I bought was it was a group of I got this great deal walking into a Salvation Army. We were there for another reason, to get the kids some sports equipment. And I walked in and I saw immediately in the glass case that they had these bags of Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 games. And so I knew right away that this was, I was expecting that there was going to be some outrageous price on it. They had them sitting on top of an original Xbox, which they wanted $80 for. But for some reason, these 16 Super Nintendo games they had in a bag for $15. And pretty much, unless they're all sports game, any Super Nintendo game averages out to more than $1 a game. So I immediately, started to look at them, and they weren't all sports games. There was just a few of them. So I had the guy show me them, and I flipped through them, but really I knew right away that this was something I was probably going to buy. And same thing with the N64. So I got a pretty good deal there. I grabbed those right away, and I told the guy, well, maybe you can hang on to them for me. And then ultimately, as I'm looking through them, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to buy these right now and put them out in my car. I don't want there to be any problem getting this stuff. And it was probably one of the better deals that I got. Like I said, it was $15. There were two bags, $15 each, and each one, the Super Nintendo was 16 games, and the N64 was 17 games. And there were a couple of gems in there, actually. One of the ones that was a Super Nintendo game was Mr. Nutz, which is apparently about a $60 or $70 game. And so I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that the ones that were in there were going to come out to more than 15, and there were a few that I wanted. So that was a pretty good deal. I ended up selling about 2/3 of the games. I think I kept half of the Nintendo 64 and then sold the others, traded the others in.
Cool.
So, yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I did see that in your video. Although you're still going to go through it at the end of the month, right?
I was just going to put it as part of my monthly video, but we did share it, and it'll be part of the monthly video, and I'll show you what I kept, and I'll probably talk a little bit about what I sold. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to? Let's see here.
No worries.
I want to talk a little bit more about the details of that.
There you go. How did you find it? We already answered. Did you get a good price? We already know you got a good price.
I think I got a good price. Yeah.
Keeping or reselling? What would you say ratio to keeping to selling?
Yeah, I think I kept about a third of the Super Nintendo games, about 5 or 6 of them, and then about half the N64. And that was based on a couple of things. So for the ones that I kept, for the most part, in the old days, I would have kept every game that I didn't already have. Mm-hmm. But lately, this time I just kept the ones that I wanted, with one exception, which was the ones that I thought were high value. I also kept. So, for example, I mentioned Mr. Nutz. I don't really have an interest in that game, but I kept it for now.
Based on the title, how could you not?
Yeah, and there were a couple actually that I had a slight interest in. One of them was Chuck Rock, but I always considered that a Genesis game, not a Super Nintendo game, for no real reason. That's just my bias, and so I sold off the Super Nintendo version. So I kept the games I wanted. I kept some of the higher value games, and it turns out that the Super Nintendo, there were only a few. And then when I went to trade them in, there were some where I thought they were offering me way less than they should. And that was there was one case of that. That was there's this Justice League game, which is a fighting game, and I thought, you know what, for the price they're offering me this, I might just give this to my brother-in-law. You know,
Okay.
he might be interested in this. And I kept a few for him. I offered some to some people, and then I traded in the rest. But I probably kept about a third to a half of the game's total,
Okay.
and traded the rest away.
And why the change of practice? Why change to not keeping everything you didn't already have?
Well, I'm going back to, when I was originally starting collecting, I was I bought everything, right? And so I would do eBay a lot, and I'd do game stores, and I would only buy what I wanted, and I would only buy the high quality stuff. And then as I got more and more into collecting, and this is sort of like the theme of this this podcast, is it's too expensive. And so what I started to do was I started to do a lot of thrifting and garage sailing. And so then I would be buying, anything that I could find, right? If it was a good price, I'd buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there's a bunch of fluff in my collection, right? There's a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily want. And so now that I've got a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily want and I'm running out of space, I'm going to start getting rid of stuff that I just don't care that much about. So I used to not get rid of anything that wasn't a duplicate. And because in the old days, maybe 10 years ago, when I got rid of some stuff that I didn't really want, I now kind of regret it. And hopefully, I don't know if that'll happen again, but I don't want to have fluff in my collection too much because I just don't have the space for it.
Yep.
So I started getting rid of, and honestly, I thought, well, I'll trade this stuff in and get a couple of dollars in credit, and then flip it to buy something of much better value. And that's what I did. The games that I bought, they paid for themselves because I got more credit back than I paid out of pocket. Well, I got it in terms of credit, numerical credit, which isn't worth as much as the cash value. But I traded it and got. I got a TurboGrafx game, which I never would have bought otherwise, but because of the way that, and then maybe this is something I want to talk about later, but because of the way I do the math, right? The credit, $1 worth of credit, I only paid, maybe 30 cents to get $1 worth of credit.
Yep.
And so the game to me was a lot cheaper, effectively cheaper than it would have been. So I bought it. Yep. I never would have bought it for the dollar price they had on it because the credit was cheaper. I went and did that. So I traded a bunch of junk for one really good game that I've been having a lot of fun with.
And you got to keep the stuff you bought, which turned out to be free. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that, people talk about all the time. And it's a really, if you're willing to put the time in, it can be a really great way to, to fund your stuff. But I got to keep the stuff I wanted for free, and I got to flip the rest of it and turn it into one game I really enjoy. Yeah, and as you were kind of saying earlier before we started recording and everything, was if you wanted to vend, you probably could actually sell those games for more than the game store gave you for them. So,
yeah.
I mean, again, time. If you had more time put into it, you could get more out of it. It's kind of up to how you want to do it, and maybe the next time you'll want to do that, but maybe next time you won't.
Yeah. In this case, it was what was expedient. Yeah. I wanted to get him out of here, and it was pretty quick. And I knew I was going to make my money back, so I wasn't going to be. And that's the other thing, right? Because this was such a great deal, I was less disciplined about worrying about getting every penny back. I knew that the trade-ins were going to be worth at least what I paid out of pocket. And so once I broke that barrier of saying, well, I'm going to pay for everything I kept and make all my money back, I'm less demanding about trying to get, maybe the best price possible. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the better the deal, the more lazy I am about trying to recoup all of that price. Yeah. So that's a time effort trade-off. And in this case, it was so overwhelmingly a good deal that simply trading it in for store credit was worth it because I'm done with the whole thing, right?
Yep. Good.
In a 2-week span, I went from getting this thing to getting rid of it and keeping these new games and trading it for something good. And I'm done. Perfect.
Yeah. James, last thing you bought?
Not nearly as exciting, I have to say. If you wanted to go back to the second last thing that I grabbed, that was a good day. But no, the very last day of hunting was up in Hamilton. Oh gosh, what did we hit? Like 4, what do you call it? Between like discount shops and flea markets and that kind of thing. And then there was retro stores and then pawn shops. Out of the whole day of like, 8 to 10 sites or whatever. I walked away with one thing that was worth buying, and that was a $6 copy of Super Bust-A-Move on the PlayStation 2. So not exciting at all. It was a complete waste of a day, with the exception of being able to hang it with my buddy. But in terms of the hunt-wise, it was a complete waste of a day.
Yeah, sometimes the hunt is fun though, so makes sense, especially if you're hanging out with a friend.
It was an eye-opener. We went into this one place. I know it's kind of off topic, but you find some real gems of stores. And one of the ones we ended up walking into, when you open the door, the smell coming out of there was so bad it hit your nose like a brick wall. We looked at each other. We're just like, if it smells this bad just opening the door, we going in here? We ended up going in there, and like probably 2-3 minutes in, I'm just looking. I'm like, dude, I gotta go. Like I'm literally choking on the fumes inside this place. It stank so bad.
Nice.
Oh, it was rank. That place just needed to be lit and burned.
And, well, if you want to go to the second last thing you picked up, you can talk about that if it's more interesting to answer these questions for it.
Yeah, trust me, like I said, that's why I started off with it's not exciting. I grabbed the Xbox One Media Remote for $2.
Yeah, that was at a swap?
That was at the Oshawa swap, yeah.
I think I might have actually seen the same vendor selling that in Barrie, and I didn't grab it and regretted it.
She just had it on a table with a bunch of crap, and I'm like, oh, she's probably going to ask some ridiculous price on it because it didn't have a tag. And like,
yeah,
whatever, I'll ask. Like, okay, so how much you want for this? She just sits there, hums and haws for, 5-10 seconds. She's like, oh, give me $2 for it. I didn't even fight her. I'm like, here you go, $2. I'll take the risk. The batteries cost more to put in the remote than the actual remote because it didn't come with any. But past that, I got the Buster Brothers collection on PlayStation. That was $15, complete in box though, or case, if you will.
Yeah.
Chuck Rock 2, complete in box for the Sega CD. That was $20. The guy was wanting $30. And from Ryan Geno's table, I got Flicky for $15, but that was also complete in the box. So yeah, that was an alright day. But yeah, the Media Remote was probably the best because I think those things retail in our regular shops really like $25, maybe more.
Yeah. Yep. Like Best Buy. Yeah, I should have grabbed the one I saw as well if it wasn't the same. It may not have been the same one. I don't remember a woman vending, but there was a man and maybe his wife was there. I don't remember, or mother, or who knows.
Yeah, this table specifically was only a woman, and I didn't see a male with her. So maybe she just brought all the crap and he went off to go get lunch or something. I don't know if it's the same vendor or not, but all I know is it was on a table. It was with a bunch of loose crap. And
this was like a bin that said like bargain or something. I can't remember. Maybe you said $2 bin. I don't remember, but I can't remember. It was cheap. Should have grabbed it. Didn't. Minor regrets, right?
We all have those.
Yeah. And you also got that was all from Barrie as well. So your NES 30 controllers you got was a good deal. That was good.
Oh, if you want to go to the Barrie swap.
Okay. That wasn't. Oh no, that was the other swap.
That was actually, if you go to Barrie, the best one from there was Puzzle to Pawn for my Neo Geo MVS.
Yeah, I remember seeing you after you grabbed that.
Yeah, that was.
And you weren't sure it was going to work, and you're like, it's worth it just for parts.
Because of the vendor table, they actually had a setup there where he was plugging it in, trying to prove to me that it worked, and he couldn't get it going. And he's like, "Oh, I can't sell it to you." And I was like, "Well, dude, if you're willing to still sell it, but not for the price that you're asking, I'll take the risk." And so he cut me down to $30. I'm like, okay, for $30, I never see these in the wild. I'll take that chance.
Yeah.
And popped it in and it came alive. So
nice. So of your stuff that you got so far, you've listed, would you say everything was good prices?
For the most part, I bought a couple of Game Gear games recently that are in the $4 or $5 range. I don't think those are necessarily a deal.
Gotcha. Yeah. Possibly retail.
Almost that price anywhere you go now anyways. Like the only Game Gear game I've bought in the past 12 months that was a deal was one of the Shining Force ones. And that was $30, and I think it has an average value like $50 or $60. So
yeah, makes sense. Especially if they're not that common, because I mean, you see Game Gear games, but they're always Sonic or that baseball one. Like always. That's it.
Sonic, baseball. There's one other one that's fairly common too. One of the casino ones. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a Game Gear, and when I have a Game Gear game, it's got to be Sonic, because that's all I have.
Yeah.
The only one I've ever gotten. Keeping or selling? Everything you're keeping?
Out of this bunch, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough
Sure.
deals to
Yeah.
pass on or sell.
I don't really get anything with the intention of reselling. I'll typically hold it for a long time, get my enjoyment out of it, and then maybe flip it if I'm done with it. But
Gotcha.
a lot
Makes
of the
sense.
stuff, even if I'm done with it, I wouldn't say that there's any sentimental value, but I'm like, well, there's a story behind it, so I'll put it on my shelf. I have to really be out of collecting for that console to really sort of not want to keep it anymore. Or if it's super common and I know I can get it again if I want it,
Yep.
then I'll ditch it too.
What about space? Would you get rid of stuff if you need, like, say you picked up 4 more Wii U games and you're like, well, this one I never play, I'll sell that off
Yes and no. It depends
just
on
for space?
It all comes down to like even things like the servers. If I know they're gonna die soon, there's literally no reason for me to keep it.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
just
true.
recently got rid of Splatoon on the Wii U because I'm like, you know what, 2's coming out shortly, and I can guarantee you the servers on the first one are gonna die eventually.
That's going to go in my sell pile now that you mention it.
There's really no reason to keep it. I might as well get my value out of it now while the servers are still alive. Because once those go down, that game's gonna be worth nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's another one that needs to go in my sell pile. Cool. All right, and myself. What did I pick up? I'll go short and quick. Yesterday, I picked up several controllers, but one of them was just a Dreamcast controller. So I found it on Kijiji, which is like Craigslist here in Canada. I don't believe they have it in the States. It's actually owned by eBay, but it's a good source. As I was telling Eric earlier, I've bought a lot of stuff from Kijiji and sold a lot of stuff there. I got it for $10. It's just normal Dreamcast controller, but the little sticker logo at the top is missing. He said he's a collector and he's selling off stuff, but he didn't know what it was worth, so he asked some friend what it was worth. He posted it for $10, and generally when I see ads on Kijiji or Craigslist or anything like that, I'm offering less than they asked for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I offered $5, and he replied back with, I'm pretty sure it's worth 10. Someone told me it's worth 10 and usually sells for 15. I'm like, okay, I'll still pick it up for 10. So I went for a drive and picked that up. It was a decent drive away, like 20 minutes from my work. Picked that up and happy with it. Everything was good. I picked it up for myself, not to resell. So I have 2 Dreamcast controllers now to go with my Dreamcast, and this will be my 3rd. Hopefully I can find a 4th just to have a full set in case I play with everybody, all 4 people. Yeah.
Yeah, good old couch co-op.
Yeah, my favorite kind of co-op.
You don't see that much anymore. I mean, I remember it was a big deal when consoles came with the 4 ports on it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, everything's down to 2 USB ports.
Yeah.
But at least you can do wireless for most new
This
consoles.
is wireless. I get that, but the times have changed for sure.
Yeah.
So I saw your bundle. The thing that piqued my interest in your bundle was the red Wii remote.
Yeah.
That's a nice item.
No. So it actually has Home Depot etched into it. It looks like they took an etcher, like a jewelry etcher, and etched Home Depot into it. So I'm assuming it was owned by a Home Depot at one time.
Okay.
Yeah. So that devalues it, which sucks.
Yeah. Is that right in the front or is it on the back
Right
side?
in the front. Yeah, right in the front.
They, of course, didn't put it on the battery cover, which you can swap out.
Yeah, for sure. Why would they?
I'm sorry. But that's a nice item to have, I think.
I was wondering. I didn't know if the red, and it's Wii Motion Plus as well. Both it and the black one were.
Sounds like the one that came in. Sorry to cut you off. Sounds like the one that came in the Mario 25th anniversary bundle. I think
it could be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they sold it separately or not, but that's what it sounds like it came from.
I was assuming they sold it separately because they often do, but maybe with red they didn't. I don't know.
I was with James. I thought the red either came with the Mario and I don't know. I think they did release this in Canada because I think it was released there first. The Wii, I don't know what they call it, the Slim.
Yeah.
The red and black one. I think that comes with a red one also, but I think you had to buy the system to get the red remote.
Interesting.
Anyway, I don't know, but it seemed like an interesting item. That color is not that, it's not rare, but it's also not common. And I think the red nunchuck, if you ever get one of those, putting those two together would definitely be something that I think people would go for in coming years. It definitely
looks like it came with the red system. I don't see it, at least on price charting, which is obviously not always perfect. Does not show a red one separately without the console.
So yeah, I think that's a nice pickup.
With the Home Depot etched on it, it's not very good for any collectors. Yeah. But I think I'm going to try and remove the Home Depot just by, I don't think I could polish it I don't think it would melt the plastic enough, and there might be dirt in there. I don't know. I just want to remove the Home Depot because it looks bad.
You said it was etched though.
Yeah.
Like deep, like cut in, like
not too deep. It's actually
not too deep
on the surface, but I don't think I can get rid of it. If anything, I would etch it out to make it just not say anything, and then it would probably look like a circle of bad, damaged area. I don't know if that's better or worse.
I don't know. I don't know. Some people like that stuff. You know, I keep hearing now collectors are, I like the old rental stickers on it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that Home Depot is, is
Home Depot. If you worked at Home Depot and you played Wii with a red controller.
Well, here's what you do. You sell it as an exclusive Home Depot Wii remote.
Yes.
Very rare.
Very. One of a kind even.
Yeah, there you go. One of a kind.
All right. So yeah, that bundle of controllers was actually the Wii controllers and the Wii U Pro controller third party one came together, and then the Saturn controller was from someone else. But I just threw it all in one picture because I don't take pictures often enough, and I don't like doing a picture of just one or two things. Actually, I could have thrown 2 original Xbox controllers in that picture. Damn. Anyway,
Slims or the big ones?
One of each.
Oh, the
really?
Duke.
Yeah, the Duke. I got one Duke.
I actually like those. I saw those.
Yeah, so I've got 2 Dukes now.
Nice. Those dongles, man. You got to look for those.
Yeah, actually, the 2 controllers came with a third dongle.
Oh, that's great. Having those spares.
I paid 10 for everything, for all 3 things. Like the 2 controllers.
That's pretty good.
Dongle.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. We're moving on. What are you selling? I know you guys both said you don't really sell that often, so this may be a brief section. But what did I put for an order here? We put me first. Okay. I'm not selling much right now. I haven't been posting things that I did have for sale. And then the whole Barry Game Exchange coming up in August, I'm planning on being a vendor there. So I'm going to hold on to things and try and get rid of it there rather than trying to sell it on Kijiji. And it's just more overhead, having to take pictures and then deal with Kijiji people who don't show up and stuff. So I'm going to hold on to things to use it there. Yeah. And what we got? Where did I find? Yeah, see, nothing. I'm not really selling much. So I could talk about something I'm randomly selling there. I mean, we just say Splatoon. I have Splatoon. I was selling it at the swap, and I picked that up on Kijiji. Let me even see if I can find it in my list. Splatoon. Picked that up on Kijiji, and I paid $40 for it from a guy named Asimo. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Parking lot in St. Jacobs.
Wow, that's some detailed record keeping.
Yeah. Well, that's just memory of where I picked it up from.
Okay.
I have his name, and I remember his name being quite unique. Let's see what Splatoon's even worth now on price charting. So we've got it listed at $31.70 US. So I may only just break even on that one, or even take a hit of $5 or so if I want to sell it. I have to check the market and see what it's currently selling for around here, see if it's any better.
So I don't want to interrupt the story here, but this is actually something that I want to kind of bring up, right? Because you're talking about Splatoon. That's a Wii U game.
Yeah.
You're not talking about not Splatoon 2. Okay, so this is a Wii U game. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was sort of the timing, right? So I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but
yeah, it's kind of what James brought up with Splatoon when he was mentioning it, which is what made me think of Splatoon. They should sell. So what do you want to think about timing? I mean, his example is perfect. Like, now is the time to get rid of it because it's going to drop in value.
Well, okay, so so I was going to say that's what I want to talk about, because the Wii, I think, and this is a theory, and maybe if you look at price charts, you're going to see stuff like this. But there's sort of the I personally think, and let's talk about the Wii U specifically. I personally think the Wii U is going to be one of those very desirable collectibles in about 5 to 10 years. And the reason I think that is, first of all, it's got, in my opinion, it's got all the classic signs of being a highly sought after collectible. It's Nintendo. And it was not very popular at the time that it came out. Mm-hmm. But it has a high quality library.
Yep.
Generally speaking, I think the Wii U, and this is my opinion, right? Generally speaking, I think the Wii U has some really high quality games that
I
people
agree.
overlooked because it's just not a popular system. Now, you couple those factors together, and this is what translates to people are going to want this thing in
I
5
think
or 10 years.
low initial sales compounds that.
Yeah. And the fact that it's going to be somewhat rare, the counts are not going to be there. So initially the prices are going to go down because what's going to happen is, what happens with the end of every console sale, right? People are up, they're unloading it, they're getting rid of it. They want to excuse me, they want to fund their Switch. But in a couple of years, people are going to be like, hey, you know what? This Wii U thing is really interesting and I'm looking for something new and I want to buy this thing. And I think all systems kind of go through this. And right now, you can kind of see this happening with the GameCube. Where GameCube is now, I think, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, where GameCube is starting to ramp up in price. I bought a few years ago when I was starting to get into funding my collection this way, I bought a bunch of GameCubes. I had about 6 or 7 in my collection just sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought them into my game store a little while ago, and they were offering me like 10, 12, $15 for them. And that's what I paid. I bought them at Goodwill and I put together bundles and I'd stick them in a box. Well, I went to that game store the other week when I was selling off that other stuff, and they were offering me $60 per GameCube. And this is just a couple years later after trying to get them to buy them they were only offering me $15.
So GameCube, I think the games are high, but it seems like to me the consoles are low, and partly because Wii has the backward compatibility on a lot of the models.
And that's what they told me at the time. They said, we don't want to buy GameCubes because the Wii has it. But now they're buying them back. And it could be just that store. But GameCube is ramping back up.
Is that with a controller?
It's the whole thing, yeah. I bundle. So I went through and I bundle everything into boxes. So it's the game, it's the system, it's a cable, it's an AC adapter, and it's one controller. And they bought it for $60, and I sold them 2 that way.
Because here I get 20 for just the controllers, even 25 I've seen.
Yeah, the controllers are
Miles just got 22 for the controllers in Toronto.
Okay. So I guess my claim is I think, GameCube is going through, and you said it yourself with the games. The games are going up. Yeah. I claim, in my experience, the consoles are going up. Wii U is something that's going to go up in, maybe another 5 or 10 years. And so what I wanted to ask you about was the timing of this, because I am doing this, and this is what I wanted to mention in this section, again, without taking over the whole thing. I'm not selling anything right now, but I am buying things to sell in a few years.
And that's something I don't do. I buy it to sell it now. I get rid of it.
So what are you going to do with Splatoon?
So Splatoon, I bought it to play it. I played it like literally 3 times, and now I just haven't had time. And I have other games I'd rather play, like Zelda.
Okay, but you're planning on getting
Splatoon, because as James pointed out, there are servers that it depends on.
Yeah, that is a problem. Yeah,
See, that's a key.
I don't want to. Yeah, I'll let you finish, but I'll chime in after that.
Yeah, Nintendo's going to want to get rid of those servers because in future versions they're charging for the online.
Yeah,
Wii U they're not. So they want that dead as soon as they can to cut those losses or cut that cost.
That's true. So Splatoon,
and put it into something they're making money off of.
Yeah. Okay, so for a game like that, you only expect the price to continue to go down.
Yeah, and also
probably
the second one coming out is another reason.
So what about, we actually can look at historical data here because there are games like this whose servers have already shut down. And I'm wondering, have you looked at, for example, Phantasy Star Online?
No.
Is that a game? What has happened to the price? I'd be very interested to know what's happened to the price of that game, because you can't really now. So here's the other thing, right? You can't really play that game except that hackers have created
community-driven servers for it now, but it's obviously not legit.
Yeah. So do you think that'll happen with Splatoon?
Being Nintendo, I can't see them letting that fly ever. I'm sure someone could maybe make it happen on the down low for a short period of time, but as soon as it gains steam, it will be cut.
Yeah, that is one difference between
Nintendo doesn't fudge around at all when it comes to their IPs and property at all. I don't think they will allow a community-driven anything for that.
That's too bad. That's too bad.
But basically what you're saying, I totally agree. It's basically the modern day Saturn in the fact that in, like you said, 5 to 10 years, it's going to be valued and the games for it are going to be going up in value. But when it comes to the basically online only ones, what value is it besides having it on your shelf for a complete collection? Because you can't really play them, so I can't see them having any major value associated with them in the future.
Well, that could very well be for Splatoon.
Like you take something like the Donkey Kongs and any of the other ones that you can play offline, and it doesn't have any online that's required. It's got its own single player campaigns. Yes, all of those are going to go up, but anything that is purely server driven, I personally don't see a value associated with them much at all. I very well could be wrong, but I just don't see there any reason why you would want to have it when you can't really play it.
I even wonder if Mario Maker will be affected by something like that too, because it requires a lot of online.
That make your own levels, but what's the point?
Yeah.
You can't share them online, so who cares?
That's a good point.
All you can do with that is like, oh, great, I made this stupid, crazy hard level. Who am I going to share it with? Oh, me and my buddy that comes over for beers 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still
you can do with that.
I'll still keep Mario Maker because my son likes screwing around on it. I mean, he's only 4, so
no, it serves more of a purpose to keep that one than it does Splatoon.
Yeah, for sure.
You do something with Mario Maker when Splatoon servers die, like that game is pretty much dead. I can't see anyone being able to give a legit reason why you would ever throw that.
Let alone when the second one comes out and everyone moves onto that, then all the player base is gone too.
Yeah.
So even if the servers don't go down right away, the player base moving is going to be another thing, which is something I've noticed with Call of Duty games is it's hard to get an online match for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first one, because nobody there.
Well, yeah, that player base is split across 20 games now.
Yeah, even Battlefield Bad Company 2, which is a game I love playing online on PC, last time I checked, there was no user base there.
Wow. So can I go back, Derek? I'd like to know. So, and you too, James. I mean, am I the only person who does this? You say you buy these games, you plan to sell them right away.
Yeah.
Now, do you agree that some of these games are going to be of higher value in the future?
I agree. I just have a hard time myself predicting that, so I don't dabble with it. I don't gamble.
Okay.
Because I know I can't figure it out.
So if you're going to buy a game to flip, you're going to say, I better be able to say right now, I can buy this game for less than market value and sell it for a profit today.
Yeah,
you're not going to speculate on a game going up in value in the future.
The only time I may have done that is if I had been on the beta for Pokemon Go and had fun with it, and I would have kept my Pokemon games I had and sold. And I would have got over double my money for them.
Yeah, Pokemon.
But I picked up 5 copies of Pokemon Black at a store for $10 each, I think it was. Again, that's in my records. But I picked up, I think it was 5 or 6 copies. My wife actually found them. And I sold them. They were all sealed, brand new, and they were clearancing them.
Yeah.
They had like 50 to 90 of them. And I should have just kept more of them. And or picked up more of them, and I didn't because I'm like, oh, Pokemon Black, that people are losing interest in that, so why would I do that? But if I had realized that Pokemon Go was going to be so popular, I would have definitely grabbed more.
But let's take Pokemon as an example, because that is a series that I have speculated on a little bit, and I've done. Now, I didn't find like the windfall that you did, where they had a bunch of them on clearance. But when I saw a couple of sealed, and it was Pokemon Black and White, where my local Target was selling them on clearance, and I grabbed an extra one, just one. Okay. I grabbed an extra one, and I've held on to it because it seems that all Pokemon games. I mean, you go back to Pokemon Blue and Red, those, and it wasn't even Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go certainly helped, but those were already going up in value. Pokemon is a series that I think it's pretty consistently going to show that the games are going up and they're going to be more valuable over time. So, I don't know you've already explained your rationale, but I think there are some series that you could with a high level of confidence say this is going to be worth more, especially sealed. In the future, but that's not something that you do.
It's not something I come across often enough to try for at least sealed. Okay. I mean, I did that one time, and I think it was 5 I picked up. 1 I gave to my brother-in-law, 1 I gave to my niece, and then 3 I sold. And here's the numbers. So I bought them for $11.87 each.
Wow!
And I sold one of them. I tried doing an auction, thinking I've never done Facebook auctions. I got this cheap. Let's try it.
Yeah.
I started the auction at $15. It ended at $15.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that was back in January 2016 that I sold that.
All right.
And then the same month, actually just 4 days earlier, I sold one on eBay for $19.91 after fees, and shipping is all taken off.
Yeah.
And then I sold another one on eBay for $21.65 after all fees and shipping. So
you're not really making a lot there.
Barely. Yeah. Not even, actually. Not even double. But if I had kept those for like, I don't know how many more months, whenever Pokemon Go came out, if I had kept them, or if I had realized Pokemon Go was going to be so popular and put up the value of all Pokemon games, I could have sold those each for probably $40.
Yeah. Right.
Sealed, right? I did actually talk to a store in town. Again, the game store I don't deal with anymore. And he was talking about having picked up 100 of them.
Wow.
And he took some to Fan Expo in Toronto, which is like a Comic-Con. And he said he was just holding on to them for the long run. And if he sold them off during Pokemon Go, which he probably did, he probably raked in tons of money from that.
Yeah.
And he probably got them even cheaper because he was buying them wholesale, right?
Right. So, anyway, I guess I just wanted to ask, this is something that I'm doing and I don't have any long-term results yet. So invite me back in 5 years because I'd like to talk about how this goes. Cause I've got a stack of, I got a box. It's a big 3 or 4.5 cubic foot box that I've been dumping PS3 and Xbox 360 and Wii games. Wii is another one. I'm speculating. The Wii is going to be, and I think we're almost going to start seeing it maybe pretty soon here. It was so popular, so many people had it, and nostalgia is what I'm banking on here.
Gotcha, especially for the Wii.
What happens is these kids who grew up on the Wii, who were maybe 5 to 14, 15 when it was alive, in about 10 years, when they're 25 to 30, they're going to have all this money. They're like, hey, you know what? I really liked that when I was a kid. I'm going to go back and buy a bunch of this stuff. And so that's what explains sort of this bathtub where it goes down and then it's going to start going back up.
I've tried something similar to that, not actually doing it, but talking to my cousin who was born in 1981. And I asked her, like, what do you remember? What is it you might want to go back and play? And she said exactly the kind of things I expected. I mean, it was PS2 time frame that she was talking about, because I think they were kind of late adopters to that. Definitely late adopters to that. So I've got a box of stuff that I'm holding on to for two things.
Well, hopefully, well, I don't think it'll be that far, but for two things basically is one, when I am low on funds for my collection, let's say I don't have any money and Melissa's getting upset that I'm spending too much money and an expo's coming up. I say, okay, well, I'm going to go to my inventory and I'm going to sell a couple of things. So I have I have some money set aside. I did that last year before PRGE. And two, I'm holding on to it for the value of these systems, these games to start going back up. So you buy it when they're, GameStop's unloading them for $1 a game.
For sure.
And I hold on to them. Oh, good ones, things that I think are going to be good. And, I recently bought something at a pawn shop, Eternal Sonata. Now, I thought it was going to be worth a little bit more than it is, but it's not worth very much. It's worth more than I paid for it. But numerically, it's like I could make a couple of bucks. But I think maybe, hopefully as time goes by and people say, hey, this was, an underappreciated RPG at the time, maybe in a few years, I'll sell those things. Anyway.
Something to think about with your mention of the Wii against the Wii U. The install base for the Wii was what? Literally 10 times the Wii U's install base. You're talking like 13 million to 100 plus million. Which would mean a lot of those titles that are worth keeping, and I mean worth keeping because let's face it, for every one good game there was like 20 that was complete shovelware garbage. But even then, if you have 10 times the install base, there's more than likely going to be, at least conservatively, on any of those more popular games, call it 3-4 times the print than what you would have seen on the Wii U. So those ones would still be technically a little more common. So I think it would be maybe a slower creep up for those to get value as per the Wii U. Most of like I said, there's going to be more. Like if you have 2 million copies printed on the Wii U and you have something else that had 6 million copies printed on the Wii, those 6 million copies are going to take longer to increase in value, I think, than the only 2 million that were produced worldwide on its predecessor.
Yes, certainly scarcity has a factor, but then I think back to games like Mario 3. So now I'm thinking back to the NES, like Mario 3 or Contra. And Contra is one of my favorite examples of sort of the counter example to that. And that is, I think Contra was really, it's not a rare game. At least I don't think it's that rare.
I hear everybody say the same thing. It's not rare.
But people want, but this is what James is talking about. People want to play that.
Yeah.
And so if you have enough people who grew up on the Wii, and there's a game that people actually want to play, that is going to help it increase in price, just like it did with Contra and Super Mario 3. So yes, Wii U has sort of a scarcity factor going with it, but I think the Wii U is going to have because it had such a large install base, it's going to have a lot of people going back to it for nostalgia purposes. And the games that are desirable will go up in value, even if they are common, because so many people want them.
The counterpoint on that, you got more people that played it, more people that want it in the future to replace again. So that's a counterpoint too, but I guess that comes down to, in terms of, like you said, the popularity, how many people want it versus just the scarcity, because it really just had a small print run, and that's the only reason why it's hard to find. And that's where it's actually worth anything.
Yeah, and that's where the speculation, gets harder to do, because there's all those different factors, right? What are the factors that are going to weigh in to determine if the price goes up or not? But I think, honestly, we've been talking about Wii and Wii U. I think the stamp Nintendo is a big factor too. Nintendo they always, right? N64, it spiked for a while. GameCube is going. Wii, they were all going to go. Even the Virtual Boy, which no one wanted that thing. It's not a good system, I don't think, and it's only got a couple of games, but it's highly collectible now.
I think what helps with that one, not even so much that it's not many were out there. The fact that the library was so small that it's relatively achievable for a full set, provided you have the money to throw into it. Because it's obviously creeped up in value now.
Yeah.
But considering the library is I think 20 games, including the import onlys.
Is it? Yeah.
I think it's around there.
It's small.
It's off by a couple there, but I think it's around 20.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
That's interesting.
So I speculate. You can call me whatever you like. I buy games when the market is low and hope to sell them higher at a later point.
Yep. No, I plan to check in with you later.
We'll see if I'm right. I did it. I do have one data point. I did it with Shenmue many years ago.
Okay.
Many years ago, in about 2000 or 2001, when everybody was getting rid of it, I bought a copy of Shenmue for $20. They were getting rid of them. I'm like, and I already have as a duplicate. I'm gonna speculate on this game, because I think the Dreamcast is dying. People are gonna want this in a few years. And I waited about 8 years. I waited till about 2007, 2008, and I sold a sealed copy of Shenmue, and I broke even.
Okay.
I think anticipating.
You follow the trend dropping and then coming back up?
I ultimately, no, because in 2007 or 8, I figured this is it. It's been about 8 years. I need to get rid of some stuff. I'm selling stuff on eBay anyway. I'm just going to put this in the bundle. And I did not I maybe didn't wait long enough. I maybe should have waited another year. And I did not anticipate the spike in retro gaming interest. At the time was kind of thinking there's sort of a shallow bathtub, and there's only and I was basing it purely on nostalgia, that there were going to be a couple of people who might want to have a sealed copy of this game. 8 years after the fact. Totally did not anticipate what happened in 2000. Whenever I think it started in 2012, this massive retro spike. If I had, I would have certainly waited. But my point is, the one data point I have of speculation, which was an 8-year duration, I didn't do very well. And this last 4 years has been really, insane in terms of what's been going on with prices. But I don't know that I think there'll be a slight crash, a correction, if you will. But I still think that nostalgia plays a factor, and there will always be a group of people who 10 or so years after the system dies want to go back and recollect some of that stuff. But I am speculating on some games. I have actually bought sealed copies of games cheap to hold on to see to sell in the future. And I try not to do that as much anymore, but I do have a couple laying around.
Are those from GameStops? Like you pick them up when they're clearing them out, or?
It's not necessarily GameStop, but it's any retail store, any retail store, any retail.
First available location retail, not like a secondhand type thing.
Or if I need like there's a buy two get one free deal, and I'm like, I only have 2 games I want, but I really want to get these prices down. I'll buy a third one that I think will be somewhat collectible. And
so I have a hard time finding sealed games for good price, even brand new, when they're dropping in price.
Yeah.
The only example I have of that, which is unusual, and I don't think I'm ever going to find it again. I think I actually heard about it from Creeply Josh, was Raiden 4 for Xbox 360. I found them at EB Games, one in the middle of nowhere, like it was in Owen Sound, which is a small town, and I got them for $2.25 each. And they're the one with the bonus soundtrack.
Nice.
EB Games and GameStop had that. And I sold those both on eBay after all fees and shipping and everything. One sold for $52.96 and the other one $51.50. So that's the data points I have for those.
Well, how long did you wait?
So that was so one was only 2 months.
Yeah, okay.
And the other one was 8 months.
Okay. That's still that's 8 months is starting to get too long. I
think what happened with that is I picked them up when they were their value was way higher than what they were put at on EB Games. EB Games just wanted them gone.
Yeah.
They didn't
so you already knew there was a disparity in the price
for sure, yeah.
with the market.
There's a huge disparity.
Yeah.
So the waiting wasn't the point there. It was the EB Games clearing them out even though they're new.
Yeah.
That was the disparity. And they were also not that easy to find games. Like
that's like
those I found one more and I bought it for myself, right?
Yeah. That's like the sweet spot where you can find something like that where the retailers don't care, but it doesn't reflect the market price. And so right away that
to find any at that.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. The stuff I buy new are not necessarily great prices. I know or I expect that the price may go down in the short term, but if I can keep them sealed and just keep them in a tucked away, then it's a gamble, and I don't do it as much as I used to because it's too risky to have that kind of inventory, that kind of money set aside like that.
So we kind of skipped over the fact that you said you do this when Melissa is harping at you to get rid of some stuff. You're spending too much, and you did it at PRGE last year. So that means that scenario must have been hit.
Well, what I meant was I had taken some of my inventory of stuff that I had set aside and started selling it off.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, I buy some stuff and I don't necessarily aim to sell it right away. I set it aside and I sell it when I think it's a good, I sell it when I think the market for it is right. And so I'm running out of NES and Super Nintendo stuff because the markets for those are really good. And what's left now, I have a bunch of Wii and Xbox 360 and PS3 stuff. And so over the next couple of years, I'll start getting rid of that.
Yeah. Part of the reason I just get rid of it as soon as I get it kind of thing is because I expect a market correction to happen at some point.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You never know when that's going to be.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. It's definitely a risk.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's interesting to me.
All right. James? You?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I don't really do the buy now to sell now thing. Very rare. I'll go through my stuff every here and there. Yes, there's things I get rid of eventually, but I don't necessarily intend on ditching it immediately. One example for sure, I did have that intention and I still have to flip it, but I'm waiting for the right table to do so, is a copy of Vey on Sega CD. I got that complete. I know it carries not a huge value, but it definitely has a better value than, some of your crapware. I traded in a bunch of junk, like literal, like $5-10 titles to get that one. So I traded up for one that was, a little bit sought after versus the garbage that I got rid of.
Yeah.
And I had the pure mentality, even when I was getting it from that table, I am getting this specifically to flip it later, whether or not that later is 2 months from now or 2 years from now.
Yeah.
The intention with it, because it's easier to flip one valuable title than it is, 10 $5 crap ones that nobody wants.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that was an instance of trading up with the intention of doing that. But for the most part, I rarely look at something on a table, say, I'm buying that to get rid of it tomorrow.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
That one looks like an interesting one. I mean, Sega CD, and then the price for it's just trending up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vey, surprisingly, it's one that slowly went up in value and kind of peaked at what it is now. Haven't seen it really raise up in the past 6 months. I think it's pretty much stayed exactly where it was, but it's still at a respectable value versus, you know, a lot of your other, you know, cheaper Sega CD titles.
Yeah, since December 2015, it's stuck at $70 US or
Yeah,
higher.
that's what I was going to say. I pretty much exactly was around 70 is
Yeah.
what I had a value in mind, and I think I traded maybe $30 worth of stuff for it. So I'd be getting double my value back on it, and with the intention of taking it to trade against something else that's even more valuable. Mostly Lunar is what I'm after right now, the second one. So if I can use that to cut like, you know, nearly half the price off, then it becomes, you know, $200 game becomes like $110, $120 game or whatever. So
That's what Lunar's going for?
the second one I think is around $200 right now, at least in my area here.
Sega CD?
Yeah.
Not the PSX. Wow. I wouldn't have known. I would have thought Vey was maybe even higher than Lunar.
No, Vey
That's
surprisingly
incredible.
has not been nearly as fluctuant with the price. Lunar, that thing just stupidly keeps creeping up. It's ridiculous.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a significant drop in Lunar since, you know, the collecting started to happen, the whole boom idea.
Wow. That's an interesting idea. And, you know, I'm reminded of Bill's story where he was not, Bill from STC Pod, he was trading in a bunch of, you know, commons or, you know, not very valuable games. And then they wouldn't let him use that credit to buy something good.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And that worries me now all the time because that's exactly what I did. You know, I traded in a bunch of junk and bought, you know, a TurboGrafx 16 game, which was, you know, expensive. And you did the same thing with Vey, James, right? So I worry that I like that as a tactic. I sometimes worry that, you know, somebody's going to decide, no, I'm not going to let you trade in 100 Maddens to get a $100 game. Does that make sense?
Vendor.
Yeah.
Like for me, I just happened to find a vendor. I think what helped grease that deal a little bit was earlier that day, I grabbed a copy of Earthworm Jim Special Edition, which was not cheap. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd already made a deal with him, bought a fairly valuable title. So when I went back to him, like, you know, I got this bag of stuff here. I kind of want Vey. What can we do with this? And he's like, you know, I handed him a stack and he picked out what he liked out of it and like straight up trade. He's like, yeah, just take it. He didn't care. And like, whatever. He took stuff that I maybe would have sold over 2 or 3 swaps myself for around 30-ish bucks. He seemed to think it was more valuable than what it was. And that's fine. If he thinks he can get more for it, I don't care. But I'm saying what I would have legitimately sold it for on my own table, I might have gotten between 30 and 40 bucks. And that would have been over multiple times. It wouldn't have been a same day sale. So to just ditch it and be done with it, I was happy.
Yeah, that's that time money trade off, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we kind of already covered what you found, what you paid for it, and how much is it worth. So moving on to story time here. So, all right. You, I didn't have an order of people here, but let's start it up with Eric here.
Okay. Well, yeah, what we've got here is, I guess, you know, Derek, you and I were talking a little bit about maybe the Buster Douglas thing. Back in PRGE last fall, I bought James Buster Douglas Boxing for the Master System. And I, you know, at the time, I guess my story is two facets to it. I had sold a bunch of stuff, which is stuff I didn't care about, obviously, and I had had a bunch of money set aside for PRGE, and I was planning to use that money to buy, you know, some Master System stuff because the stuff that I was getting to was going to be really expensive. So I sort of had this thing that I mentioned before, this notion of sort of cheap money, right? So the dollar amount that I had set aside for this, I paid less per dollar. Does that make sense? So for every dollar that was in there, I maybe only paid 60 cents or something on average to get that dollar. So I sort of had cheap money on my mind. And I had been following, I've been following the price of Buster Douglas on eBay. And it seemed like the price that the guy was asking was about consistent with. Now, Buster Douglas didn't come up very often complete on eBay, and they were always buy it nows. And I hate buy it nows because buy it nows, if you look at the sold stuff, you can get an idea, but you can't really, that has to sell. Yes. And so you can't, it was hard for me to get a good estimate for what the price of this game was worth. And so I had estimated it at, you know, to get a complete copy, like in this kind of condition, it was probably, you know, in the $450 to $500 range. And that's what this guy was asking. He was asking $500. And at the time I thought, okay, that's about the market price, but maybe I wasn't paying real close attention. And I think on price charting, it was saying that it was about $500 for complete in box. So when he was asking $500 for it, and I negotiated it, or Melissa negotiated it down a little bit, plus I had this sort of free money set aside for it, this money that I had paid less to get, I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on this. And, we kind of told the guy, Bill, Bill kind of made fun of us. Again, Bill from SDC Pod, he kind of made fun of us a little because he's like, oh, you told the guy how much you wanted it? That's your bargaining position? So that was sort of, obviously that's a mistake. You don't want to let him know. But I was pretty happy with the price at the time. Well, then I looked at the price, in the weeks following it, and for whatever reason, price charting, it started going down, and it went down to, at some point, within just a month or two of us buying it, it was down to $400 for complete in box. And I don't know what explains that. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe, but ultimately, at the end of the day,
there has to be new sales. There's no way for it to change other than that.
Yeah. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it was like, well, did we get a good? I felt okay with the price at the time, but when you look at it after, and I should know better than to do this. Did we actually get a good price? And, it came down to, was I willing to buy it on eBay? Was I willing to spend $400 on an item on eBay, sight unseen? Or was I more willing to pay a little bit extra to see the actual copy I was buying, be able to go home and test it, come back the next day to the guy, because we bought it on the first day, and say, hey, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
So, I guess my point of this story is I'm not sure we got the best price for it.
No, I still think you did. What is that?
Because I think the price went down in the months following it. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at one on eBay that says it's complete in box, but I click the link to open that item, and it's not. It's a loose copy.
Yeah.
I've come across that many times.
That's a $3.99 listing.
For just a loose copy?
It's just loose.
So it came down to, a bunch of other factors for buying this game. They are one of them as well. I had this money at the time that was relatively
40%
cheaper.
off, it sounded like the money was.
I had this copy in front of me that I could inspect and that I knew I could go back the next day.
Yep.
And I had this weird other thing, which was I just want to get this now and be done with looking for it. So I don't know what my story is. I'm not sure we got the best price for it. I will rationalize it after the fact by saying there were these other factors that, it's fine. It's fine. But I don't know. I guess that's the story. I'm not sure what the point is.
Yeah. Yeah.
To pay a bit of a premium if it's something that you really, really want. There's times where I probably paid more for something that I want, simply because I wanted it, even though it made more sense financially to either wait or, like you said, sight unseen, get it from eBay and just, quote, trust the listing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd rather pay a little bit more, see it in person, and be like, okay, you know what? I have this physically in my hand. I'm going to pay the extra 5, 10, maybe even 15% premium because I know that I have it now and I'm going to be happy with it.
And that's where I was. And I don't necessarily regret it. I don't know if we were played or not because, Melissa was like, oh, he really wants it in his collection. And he kind of said, oh, somebody else offered me this price for it. And, so I'm not going to go lower than that. And I'm like, well, if that guy's offering you that price and I happen to know his story with this, or I think I know his story with this game, then that means he's not finding it complete either because he already has the game. He just needed the manual.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
He wants it cheap so he can flip the rest of it and keep the manual.
So I don't know. I guess my point with the story is sometimes I pay a premium. I'm willing to do that for something I want right away. I thought it was reasonable. The price went down. I don't know.
Well, but at least you got the money cheap too. So the money
was relatively cheap. Yeah,
it was like 40% off. Let's say if the 60 cents was right. So I did something similar. I did Kirby's Dream Collection Special Edition for Wii. Complete all the special extra stuff, audio soundtrack, all that stuff. I was watching it for quite a while and could not find one. And price charting's been showing it around for complete, let's say $40 is the high. Oh, sorry, that's loose. Sorry. So where is that? $52 is the high US. And I ended up paying with store credit completely $73.40 for that game. And I kind of feel like I should regret it, but I don't because I now have it, and it's a great condition. I was able to see it in person, and I used that store credit I had to use anyway.
Yeah.
My
Right.
collection has gotten that high.
It's not that high.
I was going to say, that sounds awfully high, because I still have a copy sealed that I just never bothered to open. That I
So
was thinking
sealed shows as $65 US.
I might be ditching that at the next show then. Probably take it with me to Barrie.
Yeah, it's the sealed version is at its highest right now, or one notch down from highest. 69 was the highest.
Let me ask you guys a question about that too, because there's something that I do now, and I'm wondering if anybody this is anything. In the old days when I would buy games, so I used to buy my games new all the time because I never wanted anything used in my collection. I wanted everything new and in really good shape. When I got those items, I would open them right away to verify that they worked. And it's very rare that they don't. I mean, there's one game I can remember where I had a problem and I had to return it.
Yep.
As I've started collecting more and more, I don't have time to play these games. So what I was doing was I was opening them, testing them, and then they would sit on my shelf because I wasn't actually playing them.
Yeah.
In about the last 4 years or so, I've gone to do more collecting. I don't do that anymore. I buy them, and if I'm not going to play them, they stay sealed.
I noticed that in your videos. You've said
like if you look at my Wii U video, for example, half the games are still sealed because we haven't played them. But the reason I do that is because they may retain their value better.
Yep.
If they're still sealed. So I guess the expectation is I buy these games because I want them, but then I don't touch them until I'm ready to play them, with the expectation that I may actually end up having to sell them, in which case the sealed keeps their value better. Do you guys do stuff like that? Or do you open your games right away, or do you only buy the games that you expect to play right away? Because I buy my games when I see a good price on them, like Final Fantasy 15. When it went to a certain price, I pulled the trigger on it, and it's still sitting there sealed because I'm not prepared to play it yet.
Well, for me,
what do you guys do?
I normally, if I'm going to the store, like especially AAA, like, upon release day sort of thing, if I'm buying it that day, I'm opening it that day. The only reason why I still have Kirby collection still sealed is because I bought it when it was being, it was like not quite a discount bin, but it was pretty cheap. I think I only paid like $20 for it. It was fairly reasonable. And I was like, okay, I'm busy this week. I'll get to it next week. I threw it aside. It got covered with piles of crap. And then I came across it months later and looking at it and like, well, I'm already, into something else now. So I just threw it on the shelf thinking, well, I'll eventually get to it. And it stayed like that for, however many years I bought the thing.
Okay.
Is that the special edition one, by the way?
It came in the exterior box. And I think it came with like an extra booklet and crap inside.
Yeah, and an audio CD, I think. Yep,
I never... Like I said, I had every intention of opening it that week, and I just, time makes fools of us all, sort of thing.
Is that what you do, Derek, too?
It's like, damn.
No, so I never buy things new, pretty much. I mean, everything I can avoid buying new, I avoid. It's kind of like a car to me. It feels like you just lose so much by taking it off the lot.
Yeah.
So I try and get everything I can use to save as much money as possible. Now, part of that is I'm trying to be extremely cheap with my collection. My entire collection is paid for by buying and selling games. I have now right now is the worst example of that because I am in the hole by $450 now.
Okay.
That's the most I've ever been in the hole. And it's all because I decided to buy an Xbox One and controllers and Overwatch. And then I also bought the Wii U and games for that. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. But I'm hoping vending will remedy that.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of stuff that I can definitely get rid of that I've got for good prices.
Okay.
Like I'm debating on clearing out almost all of my SNES collection because I just, like you said, I don't play them. I would say that of the games I've bought for my collection, probably 80% are untested since I've bought them because I don't have time to play them.
Okay.
Now, part of that is, I'm primarily a PC gamer, so I have a Steam account and I have too many games on Steam. And then I have a physical collection of console games and I have too many games in my physical collection as well.
Yeah.
Like this, if you see behind me, that shelf right there, I've got 2 closed door shelves. That's where all my games go.
Wow.
They don't fit in there anymore.
No.
There's a pile on top and a pile over here of ones that we play often, and I just can't fit anything else. So I need to clear out room. I need to get rid of the stuff I don't play, and I need to just sell it off because it's not doing me any good just sitting there, and I'll probably never play it. And I also am okay with emulating for a lot of games because I'm not good enough at games to really notice a delay for most things.
Yeah.
I do emulation through the Xbox if I can, and then on an HD TV through Component. So
Okay.
take it as you will, but
All right.
yeah, I generally don't buy anything new, and that's why I don't have to worry about the sealed thing. Now, I have bought things new, and I always worry, like, I'm opening it, I better get use out of
You
this.
better play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm the only one who really buys these things expecting a future.
But I like your
future
strategy.
return.
I definitely like your strategy of keeping it sealed until you play it because you're not dropping the price. You're not dropping the value.
Yeah, I think eventually I'm going to find that there are things in my collection that are going to become quite valuable simply because I bought them new at retail and I never touched them.
Yeah.
And at least I expect that to happen. There's an example at the tip of my brain of one that's already occurred, but I can't for the life of me
Ninja
think what it
5.0?
is. No, I opened that one because that was in the days of when I opened stuff. But I have that Kirby collection too, and I think I have it sealed.
Okay.
But there's something better than that or bigger than that that I think is slowly going up in value because I happened to buy it and I never opened it.
Not one of the we use. You're talking older stuff?
Possibly even older. I could be completely wrong. I'd have to go look.
I would not be surprised one bit if you have several gems in there that you don't realize are worth more than you think, right?
Could be. I'm trying to think of there are some that I know that I've learned about later. But I'm trying to think of the ones that I now have kept sealed just in the last 5 years that might be somewhat valuable now because they're still sealed. But I don't know. Maybe it's too early to tell. Anyway, I keep my stuff. I have lots of stuff that's still sealed because I just never opened it, and I guess I buy more stuff than you guys are more disciplined about buying the stuff that you're gonna play right away. I tend to buy stuff when it's cheap that I know I'm gonna play.
I don't only buy if I'm gonna play right away. I wish I would.
Okay.
James sounds like he does that way, but
Yeah.
If it's brand new now, yeah. If it's the older stuff from shows, it can sit on my shelf for 6 months before I have a chance to throw it in.
Yeah.
And it's not a sense of trying to hoard it. I only have one of everything. Like that shelf back there. Yeah. There's only one of each title. There's not one thing duplicated.
Wow.
So it's not a sense of hoarding in terms of, I found, 5 copies of Earthbound or whatever, and I'm hoarding that to make a buck. It has nothing to do with that at all.
Yeah.
There's not one double on that shelf. And as much as I may or may not get to it for 6 months, it will eventually be, actually tried and, do something with it.
Yeah, I've got games I bought 2 years ago and I still haven't touched.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 2 years. Yeah, definitely.
Well, 2 years is like basically when I started collecting now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, as of August, I think it'll be 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Also with story time, James, you got anything you want to? Maybe like we were saying, your kind of your best purchase if you can't think of anything else. Your best thing you ever got.
In terms of what it's risen to right now, probably be this bad boy here. The lovely CDX. I got this thing many years ago. I think I maybe paid around $100 with shipping. Okay. I mean, I could be a little bit off on that, but I remember paying around $100 with shipping.
And where from?
This was just online.
Like an eBay or like another store?
Like a private sell.
Okay.
A guy that used to do YouTube a while ago, and he was sort of ditching stuff. But mind you, when I bought this, I think it was actually maybe worth that value. Like I'm talking nearly 10 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I picked this thing up. And I was getting a deal at the time, but it certainly wasn't worth what it was now, that's for sure.
I don't even know what it's worth now. I'm trying to see.
Loose, I couldn't tell you what they're worth, but in the box, these things are going for a pretty penny.
Okay. So it's I don't know how accurate it is, but price charting showing CDX is 250 loose and 235 complete. But then new in box is 520.
Yeah. So that sounds about right. Yeah, no, I got all the cables and everything with it, no box. But when I got it, I think I got it for a pretty fair price, and it's. To be honest, I didn't buy it for value. I bought it for the convenience of using one friggin' power outlet.
Yeah. That's cool. I was never a Sega user. I like it. My neighbor had one, so we played quite a lot of Altered Beast on that Genesis, but I've never had one. Actually, Toe Jam and Earl was another one we played a lot of. I think the second one. That's pretty much all my experience for Genesis.
That's probably one of the most memorable. Like, I've gotten crap on my shelf for $5. One of them is Dragon Fighter. Years ago, I had a flea market vendor that was just pitching games, basically. And I'd just go in there and I'm like, oh, okay, what kind of a deal can you do for me? How many can I fill into a grocery bag sort of thing? And we worked out a deal back then, and everything, he's like, okay, that shelf there, whatever you could fill in a grocery bag, give me whatever value we had worked out. And I think I was going there once every month or something, and I fill a grocery bag for $100. I get like nearly $5 a title. And one of those titles was Dragon Fighter, which back then nobody wanted, nobody cared. And then I've slowly been looking it up, and it's at like, what, $250, $300 right now, which is like astounding for how cheap I bought it.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, $5 to $280. I'd take that any day.
Yeah, that's a multiplier I've never achieved.
That's $280 US. So you flip that over to our dollar here,
Yeah.
I could probably easily get $325 for it.
Yep. That's cool.
So, I found my gems, but that wasn't one that I planned on. I was like, whatever, these are $5 games, and I just throwing them in a bag. And then years later, I'm going through the shelf, I'm like, just typing in random titles, I'm like, oh, Dragon Fighter. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good.
Do you have any idea where the vendors got their stuff from? I've always wondered that. They
This
clean
guy
out-
has been gone from that flea market for probably 5 years. I couldn't even tell you where he was acquiring his crap.
Yeah, like a lot of
Actually,
times I think
just
it's
for-
like estate sales and
Yeah, that was the majority of where my
Auctions.
turbo collection came from, was him too.
nice. Cool. All right. Well, on to me. I mean, I don't have a great story, but if we were just talking about like best find or something you're really happy you found, I'm gonna go with my X Arcade tank stick, which is 2-player arcade stick. It's meant for PC or MAME, but you can buy adapters for it to hook up to pretty much any console. So I've gotten the adapter separate from the find. I bought the adapter for original Xbox and PS3, which is a weird combination, but that's the one it does with those two. But I got the arcade stick for $50 on Kijiji, in really good condition. Looks like it's barely even been used. And the guy was just moving and had no need for it, never used it. And they're around $150 plus if you want to ship it from the States if you buy a brand new. So then that's worse.
Shipping's not cheap on those because they're pretty heavy and bulky.
Yeah, even shipping of the adapters, to buy more adapters directly from them sucks because it's not fun to try and find used adapters. eBay's no better. Yeah, I like that arcade stick, and I'm going to be bringing it to the Barrie Game Exchange, and people can play with it. Not to buy, but to play.
Cool.
That's a great item. I actually have one myself, so I can personally say that I enjoy it too.
Yeah, you gave one away too.
Didn't quite give it away, but I gave a really good price to a local friend of ours. So he got a good price. He's helped me out with some stuff in the past.
Yeah, no doubt.
Acquisition. So I made it worth his while, and he's made it worth my while, and in the past and since with other things. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good hookup from you to him. All right, moving on then. Our next thing is kind of a discussion or general question area. Things I have written down here were, how do you track your purchases, or do you track your purchases and sales, and how do you track them? So let's do James first.
By memory, and that's about it. I am very terrible with in terms of any of that kind of tracking. Like anything that stands out, like the CDX, I remember generally what I paid for that. I got better with all the crap behind me. As long as the sticker wasn't on the label, I will typically try to leave the tag or sticker somewhere on the case or the shirt. Past that, I don't track anything. Literally none. If I can think of it through memory, great. Past that, I bet you 80% of what's sitting behind me, I couldn't tell you what I paid for it. Don't care. I bought it because I wanted it at the time, and when I go to get rid of it, I'll try and get relatively maybe market value, probably put a little bit less on it if I want to move it. Past that, I never got into the hobby to make a buck or to track it or any of that. It's like, screw it, I buy it because I want it, and then when I'm done with it, it goes.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense. I mean, even with me having tracking everything, I still pretty much would sell for around the same price you're going to sell for anyway, right? take the market value, maybe go a little under if you want it to move, right?
It depends how much you want it to go. If you need to move it today and have some extra cash for tomorrow, then great. And if you're willing to hang on to it for a couple of months and put it for whatever value that it's currently going for.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have people talking you down anyway. So regardless, if you put it at market value, guess what? Odds are pretty darn good that you're not going to get market value because everyone wants a deal.
Yeah. Yep. It's true. And then, well, you do have the odd people that just pay sticker price at swaps. I can't believe when that happens, but that's very few and far between.
It happens. I actually had the last show that I did, I had a few things in my display case. Everything that was bought, people wanted to make a deal on, which was fine. I expected it, and I priced them for that specific reason a little bit higher because I'm like, okay, there's the mentality of they got their deal, and meanwhile, I dropped my price from what it's at. I got closer to what I wanted for it anyway, so I could care less. So I still got, in theory, what I wanted for it, even though I dropped the price. But yeah, one thing that was in there, I would have gladly dropped because it was just a loose hue card for the turbo. And the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you the $25 for it. Didn't even bother to ask. I'm like, okay, $25, here you go.
Even better, yeah.
Yeah. I could care less. If he had asked me for cheaper, I would have done 20 or whatever on it, no problem. But he just handed me money and said, give me it. Like,
is that what you found? Is most people ask $5 off pretty much no matter what you do, or is it a percentage?
I would say typically a percentage. Like, I mean, if it's a $20 title, they might say, well, give me 15 for it. If it's not common, I might say, okay, well, let's split the difference and go at like $17.50 or $18 or something. But for the most part, I'd say your cheaper stuff is around $5 off. The more expensive stuff, it could be 10, maybe upwards of $20 off, depending how bad you want to move it or if you just don't care.
Yeah.
But if they're buying multiples, I always tell everyone that. Doesn't matter what you're buying. If you're buying multiples, then I'm always more willing to knock off a bit more money regardless. Because I would rather move 5 items to you and, take a little bit more of a loss on it than have to bring it back with me to the next show and store it in the basement.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Do you have any idea how many games are in your collection, James?
If I had to take a rough stab right now, I would go with conservatively 500.
Okay.
Compared to what's on the shelf, and then I've got crap in the basement too that I'm, like you said, for vendor show sales. My 3DO, which I never used because just recently I got something that was actually worth playing on it, but I haven't even used it yet. That sits down there. I've got factory sealed games for the 3DO that aren't even worth opening because they're all just
garbage. I just heard you say that somewhere.
Yeah, they're all garbage. When I got the console, I was like, oh yeah, it comes with 15 games, and guess what? 12 of those 15 games were factory sealed, and not one of them did I have any ambition to open because I was just like, nope, and storage.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to guess you have more than 500 based on the fact that I have 500 and you have more room and more stuff.
Conservative guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So you don't track it in an app either.
I tried to, and then I just kept adding stuff and forgetting to update it. It was just like, oh, I don't care.
That's the point I'm at now is I keep forgetting to update it. Okay.
I honestly could care less.
Cool.
I've ended up getting doubles because of that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good price. I don't have that. Bring it home, scan the shelf. I'm like, ah, damn it. I'm like, well, go into the next show and get my money back for at least what I paid on it.
All right. Eric, you track your purchases and sales?
I think you know that I do. Initially, I track everything in a spreadsheet. And initially, I created the spreadsheet to be an inventory, mostly because I didn't want to go through boxes to know if I had extra controllers or whatnot. And then over time, as I was buying more stuff, I started to track I kept all the receipts, but they weren't in the spreadsheet. And I started to track prices and purchase dates because I wanted to know, basically for my personal budget, how much I was spending on these things. And then I do track sales. That I didn't do a lot of selling before that. So when I did start selling, it was already, something that was easy to do, to know that I wanted to track the sales and the prices and all that stuff. So, yeah, I track all that stuff in a spreadsheet. It's arranged, though. My spreadsheet was initially arranged as an inventory of what I had. So the arrangement of how stuff is tracked when I sell it is on it's arranged by game. So I do have a section for games I've sold, and then it just says what I sold it for and where I sold it. When I sell on eBay, I have a separate eBay spreadsheet that's just for stuff I sell there, but I don't have things organized for sales specifically. I just have a section that says these are games I once owned and I don't own them anymore because I sold them, and here are the details under which they were sold. But yeah, I keep my spreadsheet mostly as an inventory of my collection with that other information to help me budget and understand where my money is, where I'm spending money. One thing I don't do, which you already mentioned that you do, is you fund your collection with your collection. To me, and this is maybe a topic that I'm interested in. To me, all money is fungible. So I don't keep track, with one exception. I don't really keep track of, there's sort of a profit column. It's like, hey, I bought these games for this much and I sold them for this much. Mm-hmm. But that money just went back into, my checking account. It's not a separate line or ledger for, I then used that money to fund my collection. It's just, okay, I maybe sold these games and made $70 on them. That just went back to my household money. And then I bought, not 70, but $500 worth of stuff, later. Yep. So I don't connect those two, the sales money with the purchase money. I know that's different than what you do. So I just sort of have a count. This is what I spent. This is what I made back. It all went into a common money pool for my house. Yep. But yeah, I definitely track that stuff. And as time has gone by, I've added more and more things to my spreadsheet that I feel like I want to keep track of. Like, I didn't used to keep track of purchase location. I'm now adding that information. And
so I never used to keep track of dates until you mentioned it. I'm like, why the heck am I not keeping track of dates?
Yeah, dates came. I don't know why I kept track of dates, because it was on the receipts, and when I entered them all in, I'm like, well, I may as well put the receipt. I put the date in, but I didn't care about the location. The date is interesting because now, or even back then, I can say what my collection looked like over time. Now I don't have a means necessarily of charting it on a day per day basis, but I can look at it on a year per year basis and just say how the collection has grown. And in fact, I have a YouTube video I do at the end of each year that shows what the collection looked like at the end of the year, going back all those years.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just fun for me. It's fun. It's just a curiosity.
It's funny because I have a next question is fun statistics. But first, I actually started tracking location because I was finding I had repeat buyers.
Yeah.
I was selling things to people a second time, sell them something else, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, I bought this from you. And I'm like, I don't remember. Or they said, I've been to your house before and I don't remember why. I'm like, you probably bought something off me, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even had one guy buy something off me on eBay, and it turned out he had already bought something off me on Kijiji, because I went to text him and say, hey, you live right around the corner from me. How about I don't ship it? Maybe we just cancel the eBay transaction and we do this direct. And it turned out I had already texted him because he had bought another game off me before.
Yeah.
So that was even easier.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you find over time, as you did too, that, there's more and more information you want to add over time that for tracking. So that's it's hard because the tracking that you do is incomplete for certain fields.
Yeah, it bothers me.
Depending on when you started tracking that.
Bothers me to have blanks.
Yeah. So, I mentioned offline, and I'll mention it here briefly. I don't want to get into it, but I'm now actually going back and trying to fill in some of those blanks by looking at pictures and videos of my collection that happened to be in a picture or happened to be in a home video, and trying to reconstruct what the collection looked like on that day and fill in some of those gaps. And that is an interesting forensic exercise.
Yeah, that
at least for me,
more than it should. I think it's awesome.
So yeah, it bugs me that data isn't in the spreadsheet. So I'm trying to go back and reconstruct it. But
yeah,
whatever.
Cool. Yeah. So Because we already did that. We did this whole section. And fun statistics. I don't know if you have any fun statistics. I think I actually went through this on the last podcast, so I won't throw out statistics again. But did you have any there, Eric?
Well, the one thing that I do that I think maybe is unusual or not many people do is that this started way before I even kept an inventory. My brothers and I just did this. We would note down the days that we completed games. Yeah. There was sort of a competition, and I had that stuff just in a handwritten notebook that we used to keep. And when I created the spreadsheet, I decided I would merge those two things. And ever since then, I've kept track of win dates when we completed a game. And so I tweet out, every day, or when I remember, I'll look in the spreadsheet and say, did anything happen interesting on this day, in past years, and say, oh, I won this game on this date. And I'll tweet it out. And some people, they don't care. Some people, I get a favorite every now and then. But I like to keep track of when I win stuff. And for no other reason, you can sort of track how long it took you from when I acquired the game, because we are tracking that, to when I completed the game. In some cases, it's a month, and in some cases, it's like 15 years.
That's cool.
So, yeah. I don't know what the longest is.
Whenever I see a game that I particularly like or know or enjoy, I hit, the heart on that tweet. I like that.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I think it's awesome statistics, but I never beat games pretty much ever. So that would be very, very boring spreadsheet for me. There would be maybe 4 games on there total.
Well, it's I keep track of percentage, and for a while there, I was hitting about 12%. About 1 in 8 games that I bought, I'd actually finish, and I wanted to get that percentage up. And then collection, 2012 or 20, when I really got back into it and was buying stuff in bulk, and the percentage is way, I think, much lower than that. If you'll permit me, I can take a quick look at. It's at 5% now. So I've only completed 5% on average of the games in my collection. So 1 out of 20.
Do you have a total number of games?
I do. I have a summary page that has that. Huh?
If you're willing to divulge how many?
Sure. I'll do it. Current, according to my collection, and this is everything. This includes digital games I have. It's 2,522.
Crazy.
And those are single items. There's another number for games where it's like multiple games in a bundle. Okay. And I'm not talking about those huge arcade collections where it's 30 to 1, but games where it's like Ratchet and Clank collection for PS3, which has like 3 games in it. And that number is not as interesting. It's 26. So 2,500 items in the games in the collection. And RF Generation is where I store that. That number is a little bit fewer because I don't put the digital games on there.
Oh, yes.
But I do it does count Skylanders. I've started putting my Skylanders figures in RF Generation.
So you started collecting Skylanders.
I've been, and I started doing that because I don't want to buy any duplicates. I want to know which ones I need.
Yeah, I need a list of Skylanders because I collect them both because I like to have things and I have a problem with having one of everything.
Yeah.
And also because my son loves playing Skylanders.
Yeah.
There's a pile of them on the floor because he has to keep pulling them all out to play with them and like physically play with them, not just put them on the game.
Not just put them in the game.
But he also needs to play with them and have them fight and stuff.
Great. So, yeah, it's about 2,500 games.
Crazy. I can't even imagine.
Well, I'm running out of space.
Digital. I don't know why. If it's not physical, I don't consider it.
I don't either.
I count myself.
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong by doing that.
Yeah, those are the summaries. When I have them in the spreadsheet, I actually separate the physical from the digital because I like to know that physical number. But for this summary page, it's not sophisticated enough to make that separation, so it counts everything.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on then to the next section. We've got listener questions. This is the first time we've had this section because we've only had one episode before. But listener questions, we've got one from Stephen Eider. And he said, would love to hear some tips on shipping things out. What sort of box packaging envelope do you use? How much do you charge? Now, I know he's in Canada, so I think that how much do you charge won't be very relevant to Eric or from Eric's answers. But for myself, generally, I usually only sell games. I don't usually sell accessories because they're just too big, unless it's Rock Band, because those are some decent money, especially for how cheap you can get them. But I try and ship everything I can in bubble mailers. I know some people really hate bubble mailers, but if I had a game, well, I did ship one NES game once, and I used a bubble mailer for it. And I know people hate that because it can crack the game. You can crack the outside case if the shipping company's rough. But that's all I've done. And I mean, if someone ever messages me and says, how do you ship? I would say, I use a bubble mailer. If you want something else, no problem. You'll just need to pay for the increased shipping cost, because here in Canada, I think shipping is much worse than the States. Pretty much shipping anything in an envelope, if it'll fit in an envelope and fit through their small slot and doesn't weigh too much, it's $3.33. But if it has to be shipped as a package, then it's pretty much at least $13 and up.
Yeah, that's a much bigger disparity than what I'm used to between the two.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because I ship I try not to ship in bubble mailers. I try to ship in boxes. And I have shipped in bubble mailers certain things, but the disparity, it's I only ever sell things. The only things I've ever really sold have been on eBay. And it used to be that what people would do was they would charge exorbitant shipping fees because eBay wasn't taking a cut of it.
Yeah.
In my recent sales, I've discovered that eBay is now taking 10% of everything.
Yep.
And they want to encourage you to do free shipping, but I don't. And so I put a flat rate into the bid and start the bidding price a little bit, where I want the bid to be, and then there's a $4 shipping rate. And if it costs more, then I take the hit, and if it costs less, I guess I get a little bit extra. But the disparity between bubble mailer and boxes is not what you said. I can ship in a box for around an average of $4.
Jeez.
So, and I only ship to the U.S. That's one of the things that I do as an eBay seller. I limit it to the U.S. I don't want to mess with international. I'm sorry. I don't want to mess with that international shipping thing they do.
Yeah.
So I keep it simple for myself. If that reduces my market, so be it. But
I only ship to Canada unless it's something that's not selling. Then I'll open it up to the States, like I did for the Raiden 4 sealed, because it was sealed. It's hard to sell. James, any tips you got?
Honestly, I got out of the whole eBay thing years ago. I rarely.
Yes, you did say about PayPal issues, right?
I do rarely ever sell anything online, but I do parcels to close friends. Like even just recently, I shipped off something to Eric, and that was just because Eric, we'd done a side deal. I didn't sell him anything. I'll go with the most that I can fit into a box without increasing the price. I'll even sometimes try to get a rough idea from, like, if I'm going by the postal outlet, I'll take the box with me with the address and okay, how much is it going to cost me to ship this out to this location for, call it 3-4 pounds or whatever. And they'll give me a rough estimate with that. And they're like, okay, well, I know how much crap I can theoretically cram in here to hit that sort of ballpark area, and what I'm going to pay for it going out. If I am going to do a sale, not if, but years ago when I did do sales, I used to put it as, I will get you a damn near exact quote. If I was shipping it to the States, I would say, okay, you know what? You're waiting the extra day. I will take this item. I will package it properly so it survives. It won't get damaged. I will get the exact quote from the retailer. Now, granted, you might get, a different teller the next day or whatever, and it might vary by whatever couple of cents or whatever. I've had it before where I'm like, okay, your exact quote is $4.83, and then I'll go back the next day and it's $5.13. Why there's the variation when it's the same damn info, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way their scales are calibrated that day. Who knows? Whatever. But it's generally within a buck of what I used to say. Okay, well, if this is your shipping rate, this is pretty much the exact cost. If it's 50 cents more or less, you know what? I'll eat it, or you'll eat that cost, whatever.
Yeah, interesting.
I rarely ever did the
I've never had the fluctuation.
I rarely ever did the flat rate thing because you just don't know who's buying it, and I didn't want to take that risk back then. I wasn't really doing it enough to have that knowledge of what I should be charging, quote unquote, for a flat rate. I didn't want to put, okay, your flat rate's $5, and I take it there like, oh, it's $15. Well, guess what? I've just taken a $10 loss when I didn't have to.
Yeah. I usually price like I'll put the listing. I'll check the item first, make sure it can fit through the envelope slot with the bubble mailer to fit as regular mail. If
For
it
us,
will,
yeah, we actually do the same thing. You're Canada too, obviously.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I do the same thing. If I know that I can get it into their specific measuring system, I think it's actually just a board with a hole in
It
it.
literally
like a mail
is. I need
slot
to
door.
get one. I
Yeah.
need to get one of those.
I'd love to get one too. Like if
Yeah,
they're ever
or make
throwing one
one.
out or whatever, I'd take it and just for a guide. But if it fits in that slot and I know that it's going to survive, then I will absolutely aim for that because I know that is the rock bottom cheapest method to get.
333. That's what it'll be. As long as it doesn't, if it weighs less than 100 grams, then it will be 294, I think, or 295, something like 295, I think it is.
I used to have the math written down. I lost that sheet a while ago, but yeah, you're pretty much bang on with what I remember.
Yeah, I've done it recently enough. So if it fits in the envelope, great. And then I'll put $5 on it for the shipping on eBay. You're paying $5. Now, what I consider that $5 to be is there's your shipping price and maybe a little extra if I get screwed over or if I have to pay for shipping materials because I still have to buy the envelope. Now, I usually buy them at the dollar store, like 5 of them for $1.25. So it's not a big deal, but I just put extra in there just in case. And also, if there is no extra fees, then that $5 helps pay for the 10% eBay's taking.
Yeah.
And then PayPal takes another 6% on top of that or something.
Does eBay not take 10%? In my most recent sales, eBay took 10% off the final price, including my shipping. So they took 10% of my shipping.
Off both. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. They didn't used to do that, but
I think they were getting screwed over by.
They were getting screwed because people were doing the bid for $1, and then the shipping was $29.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Which is not. That was a workaround. Anyway.
Yep. And then, so the other thing is, if I know it won't fit in a bubble mailer and it's not too heavy, then $15 is the flat price. Like, I put $15 as the shipping price on eBay, and then it usually will end up costing me 13 something or 12. I can't remember. It's all in my spreadsheet, but I'll forget. And it'll be too long to look. But
you ever get hassled about that? I mean, eBay, I think, is trying to encourage free shipping because they want to make it look like they're like Amazon, where you're not paying for shipping.
Only in the States. I have not had them do that.
Okay, so you've never been dinged for exorbitant shipping?
No, never.
They charge me, $1 for ship, 15, whatever,
No, as far as I knew, I thought that was only for like people who are sellers and have a store that they pay fees for. I thought they got dinged on that for those.
All right. I've never been dinged either. It just seems like eBay really wants to, your item will sell better if you have, free shipping. And it's like, well,
they just want to try and be Amazon.
I don't think it really matters. I'm trying to play the psychological game where people are going to bid it up and, be like, oh yeah, they're shipping. Yeah, I know. Or maybe forget about it. Maybe the bid price will go a little higher because they've forgotten about the shipping. But I started wanting to charge for it.
We actually talked about that in the last episode was buy now versus auction. I always do a buy it now because I don't want to deal with an auction and there's not enough people fighting over it when I sell only to Canada.
Okay. Yeah.
The population's just not there.
Yeah, we should talk because I've never done buy it now. Because a buy it now, I mean, what do they last? 30 days or something?
Yes.
And then if you have to relist it, is there?
If you want.
Yeah, I think depending on the category, they limit you to 30 days, 60 days. Different categories have different maximums.
Is there a fee for relisting it if it doesn't sell in that time?
No.
Oh, there isn't. Okay.
As long as you have not gone over your allowed free listings, right?
Okay.
Which I think is like 5 a month or maybe it's 12 a month. I don't remember. They always change it up.
So you're content to put up a buy it now and let it just sit there until it sells?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I've done for my, whatever it is, like 45 or 50 eBay sales so far.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, I tend to want there to be a deadline, and I guess I'm like, well, let the market decide what the price is. So,
yeah. See, there's just not enough market here. Someone will just get it cheap here.
Yeah. It's happened. It's happened where I've sold. I try to put the price low, but not so low that I'm going to take a huge bath on it. Mm-hmm. But it's always a risk. All right.
Okay. Well, next listener question comes from Musty Hobbit, and this was Overwatch chat. He said, "Where did I think of this idea for this podcast?" And the idea came from talking with Miles of Flock of Nerds on Facebook. We were just on Facebook chat talking to each other about stuff we picked up, things we're looking at buying, and I'm just like, it's fun. It's fun to talk about what we're doing and how we're collecting and also how we were doing our spreadsheets. So that's kind of how this whole thing came together. And then the next listener question is from this MightyQDawg guy.
Who's that? I never.
Essentially,
piece of work.
He's a good guy, I swear.
Thanks.
Essentially, what your question was is, how do we track when you're getting store credit? Is pretty much the way you're asking.
Well, yeah, it comes out. Yeah, if I can just paraphrase, it comes down to something that Joe from STC Pod was saying, and the way that I do some of my tracking in this one example, and that is, a dollar is a dollar, so I don't make a lot of distinction between where I got the dollar or what. But there are occasions in this one case where the store I think is overpriced, where I don't want to put in my spreadsheet that I actually paid that price because I use store credit, and the credit cost me less than the dollar value. And so I wanted to know about sort of accounting practices, right? Because Joe, so for example, you and Joe, you, Derek, and Joe do this thing where you say, well, I bought the game, I bought something, and I flipped it and made this huge profit. So whatever I bought with that profit is essentially free. I don't think that's how actual accounting works.
No, I say that verbally, but on my spreadsheet, I write down how much I bought it for, how much I sold it for, even with the store credit. Like in store credit, I write down that dollar amount they gave me in store credit. Yeah. And then when I buy something with it, I write down the dollar amount I bought it with.
So
like
my
Kirby, I bought, let's just keep it simple. I bought 50 $1 games for 60 cents each, let's say, at garage sales. I write down that I bought each game for 60 cents and I sold it for $1 at that game store. And that's essentially store credit, but I don't note that it's store credit because if I sold it to that store, it's obviously store credit.
Yeah.
Then when I go and spend that money, I just write down how much store credit I spent in a dollar amount. I don't denote that it was special because it was store credit.
Yeah. Okay.
It's basically dollar in, dollar out, or
so it doesn't. So yeah, but so that works for you because you have it's all that budget that you use for your games is all one budget.
Yes.
Now my problem is that the games that I sell goes back to money. That goes back to my general household. And then when I buy a game with store credit, I consider that separate because I got a discount on that credit. And so I apply that discount. And this is what I wanted to know is when you get a discount or when you get, a sale off of something, how do you calculate the final price? And for store credit, I'm finding myself struggling because the store credit I bought, I got that credit at a discount. And so the stuff I buy with that credit, I want to consider that discount as part of the price, a discounted price for the item I got. Mostly because I don't want my spreadsheet to show that I paid $100 for a game because the store was charging $100 for an $80 game.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? They were overcharging me. I didn't really pay $100 for the game. I paid less than that because the store credit I applied to it, I paid far less. So I'm doing this weird conversion. It's like a currency conversion to say the dollar amount of this credit is actually less than the numerical value that they're showing. And so when I buy the item with it, I apply that discount to the purchase.
Yeah, if I was to do the same thing, or what I was doing it your way, I think I'd still want to put the amount I physically paid in store credit, and I would just note somewhere that it was store credit.
Yeah.
Because you still sold something to get that credit and they gave you that money.
Yeah.
Or that credit.
There's a way for me to reconstruct in my spreadsheet if I go to it because it's not a pure number, it's a formula. So when I go and look in the formula, I can see and I write in a separate column the actual sticker price, but it's not considered part of my it's not considered part of the price I pay, but I don't ever denote something as zero just because I used money that I sold from another game because that rolls it forward too much. So I do keep.
The only time I've used zero is birthdays when I get a gift as a birthday present.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Well, anyway, trying to note how much it's worth, but
so I don't know how to deal with this. I like your system because it's a lot cleaner, but I don't like denoting that I overpaid for something because the actual out of pocket.
Zero, it's fine.
Well, no, I don't want to do that either because it's not technically true. There was an out of pocket expense for it, and that's what I'm actually recording. So my profit does roll back into that for that specific situation. So my spreadsheet's a mess basically, and I was wondering what people did with their accounting on this.
Yeah, I
got your answer.
That's the way I do it, but I don't know if there's a better way or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
The next section is a section I added just recently, which is I meant to add it the last one and forgot, but suggested content. Keep it brief, but let's say something you want to suggest people check out. For me, I'm going to suggest people check out the Scavenger Life podcast, which is basically a podcast of husband and wife combo that sell on eBay for their full-time job. They have the podcast, and they also have a YouTube channel by the same name, and the website scavengerlife.com, where they give tips and they go through what they've done for the last week, what they've sold, what sells for them, what they've learned about stuff, where they buy from. And they also take listener calls for other people who sell on eBay and have issues and have to or want to ask their opinion on what to do. So that's my suggestion. Anybody else have a suggestion? It doesn't have to be buying and selling related. It can just be another collector that you want to suggest people check out.
Oh, we're at the Cartridge Club. It's the reason why I've gotten to know quite a few people elsewhere besides just my local community. So, I'll throw that out there, the cartridgeclub.org. And also the Flock Talk. I've enjoyed, I think they're on, 5 or 6 episodes now for their podcast?
Yeah, I can't remember how many.
It's around 5 or 6. It's in that general range. But yeah, it's worth checking out. I mean, anything that's, suggested in terms of a YouTube channel or whatever, it's not like me. I always try to put it as I'm not endorsing you to go and check it out because you have to subscribe to it. If you check it out and you don't like it, it's not your cup of tea, that's fine.
Yeah,
that could be the same for my content. It's the same for anyone. I don't care if I recommend someone, and I normally put it as check out their content. If you enjoy it, give them a sub. But if it's not your cup of tea, I appreciate you giving them, the 5 minutes to sort of at least see if they're up your alley for future content that you'd want to consume online.
Yep. Eric?
Yeah, you know what? I'll throw out. I think a lot of people know about this person, but I'm going to throw it out because he's local and he's got an extensive collection, and he started making videos again, and that's the immortal John Hancock. Mm-hmm. I suspect, and he is starting to do some tip videos and stuff like that, but I suspect he's got a wealth of insight because his collection is so vast, and he must have found some clever ways to afford that. So he's been doing some stuff like that, and I suspect if you continue to watch him, you'll get some good tips on how to what to look for and how to maybe even fund that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So John Hancock.
Okay, cool. All right, the next section is actually the Cartridge Club Game of the Month. It is Dark this month, and who's playing? Eric, you playing?
I intend to try. Yes, I intend to play it. I've owned the game for many, many years. I now own it on Rare Replay, and I expect to try to get through the single player. And I know the Cartridge Club is doing some online multiplayer events, so look out for those too. But yeah, I want to try to play it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm interested in the online with Rare Replay as well.
Yeah.
I was going to ask next how you playing N64 or HD Remaster or Rare Replay.
Well, I'm torn because I like to play games on their original console, but I have a feeling it's going to be very difficult for me to play it on the N64 because of the single analog. I don't know if they corrected that on the 360. If they did correct it on the Rare Replay or the 360 version, so that there's dual analog control, then I will likely do that, plus achievements. I'll just waive my rule about playing it on the original console.
Cool.
I don't know yet.
I'll just be doing it on the Xbox just out of pure ease, convenience. Plus, I love my controller that I have for it. The Elite controller just makes anything on the Xbox. Like, if I have it for that, I'll play it on that because I thoroughly love that joypad.
Nice.
It just makes things a lot more enjoyable. I mean, I used to love the DualShock 4, DualShock 3, whatever. Every iteration that Sony put out. That was the most comfortable controller until I got this one that's got the triggers underneath.
Yeah.
And I can't play anything now that is, if it's on the Xbox, I'm going to be playing it on that. It doesn't matter now, just because I love that controller. It's stupidly expensive as it was.
Yeah.
But, there's the online and all that crap too. So that's another incentive. There's the achievements. There's that incentive. Do I really want to play it on, the N64 in vastly, degraded video quality? Yeah, I'm normally a stickler for the original content, but in this case, I really could care less. I could care less if I played it on the cartridge or not.
Cool. All right. So plugs. This is, check out games RetroPixel on YouTube. Was your YouTube PIXEL or IL? I can never remember which
It's
one's which.
EL. I was able to get that legit name here, but online, I think Twitter had to be IL just because it was gone.
Okay, so Twitter is the exception. I'll try and remember it.
But I actually have the my domain linked right to the YouTube now, so it's literally retropixel.ca, and it will automatically bring up the YouTube page now.
Oh, nice, cool, good. All right, yeah, check him out, and he's also got a podcast.
I do.
So check out the RetroPixel podcast, or RP, right?
RP podcast,
yeah. Yeah, for short. All right, and then Eric, MightyQDawg. Check out your Twitter by the same name, your YouTube by the same name, and dog is spelled DAWG.
That's right. Yep, that's where we're at.
Yep, you and your wife on YouTube.
That's right. Me and Melissa.
Yep. I watch every video.
Thanks.
And James, I was trying to watch every video of yours, but then all of a sudden YouTube stopped showing your videos on my feed as I talked to you about like maybe a month ago now. That was weird.
Gotta hit that bell.
Yeah.
Okay, so then me, Two Dorks, my channel with my brother-in-law Tony, and then I also have Thrifty Dorks, his thrifting channel I have with my wife, as we're starting to talk about that. I was kind of keeping quiet, but yeah. Then Cartridge Club, everybody, if you're not already, go check out cartridgeclub.org and create an account in the forums and start talking. I know when I heard about Cartridge Club, the thing that held me back was, how do I actually join this thing? You know what I mean? Everybody talks about it. It's a game of the month game of the month club, but how do you actually join? Just go on the forum, create an account, and then go introduce yourself. That's all you need to do. Just start talking.
My hesitation for it was not being too familiar with the community.
Yeah.
And I'll put it out there. Don't be afraid of the community. By all means, join up, start talking. There's no bad ideas. Nobody's going to shoot you down for having a different opinion on something. Be welcoming of other people's opinions, though. If someone likes a game and you don't, you can say your specific reason. I don't like it because of this. But don't attack someone saying that they're wrong for liking it, sort of thing. Everyone's very welcoming as long as you have the respect for their opinions, and everyone will respect your opinion. And past that, it's just a good time to get to know other people, whether it be through the online forums or in my case, the online play with Overwatch. That's how I got to know a lot of people because, we're just playing that like a religion lately. So that ends up being, I get a lot of my discussions in the side chats because of that. But I was playing with the club before that. But the only way that you're going to get into the club and enjoy yourself is to put yourself out there and not be shy about it.
Yep, I find most people on Twitter, I think I actually started, kind of creeping on Twitter and talking to people on Twitter before I actually created an account on the forum, which there's no wrong way to do it, but I honestly think I should have just created a profile in the forum first so people knew that I was coming from the Cartridge Club in order to talk to them on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, the way I went about it was weirder. Yeah. All right, cool. And the last thing here, we're going to finish off on what we're going to do next episode. So the plan for next episode is to finally definitively prove fast and easy way that E equals MC Hammer.
Good luck with that math.
MC Hammer.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining. And that's it for Dorks episode 2.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Cha-ching.
Thanks for having us on.